Thank you for joining us for the final in a series of media briefings that we've had throughout the 2017 season. As is customary, our guest today is Art St. Cyr, the president of HPD.
How are you, everybody?
Thanks for making time for us.
Hello. There we go.
I'm going to really want to clap after this. I think I can speak for everybody under the canopy when we open by wishing you a very happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday.
And our present is that we aren't going to sing.
I appreciate that. I actually only have one wish for my birthday, is it's a championship. So.
Duh.
But that's out of your influence.
Well,
I wouldn't say that.
Well, I mean, if you concern all the unknown factors in racing.
yeah, but I can still wish for things, right?
Yeah, of course.
I also wish
yeah.
for a Honda jet for my birthday, but I'm probably not going to get that either.
Yeah.
All right, let's begin with kind of your take on the IndyCar season as a whole. 7 victories, 1 from each team, from each Honda powered team, at least 1 from each Honda powered team, and a chance at the championship going into the final event. Kind of give us a reflection on 2017 from your standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, that really sums it up, especially considering that this year the Aero Kit rules were frozen. So last year we won 2 races, which was not a great year, but we did win the Indy 500 last year. This year we have come back. We've won 7 races so far this year, including the Indy 500 again with Takuma Sato, which has turned out to be a really great thing for Honda worldwide. STE mentioned that every one of our 5 teams has won at least 1 race, which I think is a testament to the overall strength of all of our teams right now. That what we want to do at Honda is really raise all boats and have information and teams and drivers that allows all of our teams a chance to win every week, and I think that we've achieved that. Having Scott Dixon right in the championship hunt, considering what happened to him at the Indy 500, the other double points race, shows his resilience throughout this year. There were a couple races, between Texas and the Indy 500, a couple of things that he had taken out on situations that weren't his deal, I guess. To see where he is now really is a testament to how strong that team is and how good of a driver Scott Dixon is. And to be 3 points out and challenging for a championship at Sonoma here is just fantastic. So it's very exciting.
As we look ahead to 2018, my understanding is that the homologation table doesn't really permit a great deal of modification from an engine standpoint. What will HPD be focusing on as it prepares the IndyCar engine for the 2018 season?
Right. So with the engine formula, as most people know, there are different parts you can work on every year. 2017 was actually a relatively small year to do development. 2018 again is another relatively small year for parts that we can develop in the engine. With that being said, there are still some areas that we are looking to improve on for next year. We don't expect anybody to be standing still. Our competition is not standing still for sure. So we are still working to improve our engine, what we have right now. We hope to give our teams a very solid engine package next year. Combine that with the new Universal Aero Kit next year. We expect to have a very strong package. We expect all our teams, again, next year will be fighting for victories every week. So that is our expectation. One thing that I think is really good is that we do have our team lineup is set for next year. So we are keeping the same 5 teams that we have this year, with the latest announcement with Andretti Autosports. At Watkins Glen announced that we re-signed them. So we still have the same 5 teams with Andretti Autosport, Chip Ganassi Racing, Dale Coyne Racing, Ray Hall Letterman Larian, and Schmidt Peterson Motorsports. So we will have the same teams. Driver lineup might be a little bit different, but having those teams set right now gives us a chance to really put our plan in place early on to make sure that the off-season testing will go well. especially with this new Universal Aero Kit, make sure that the information that we can provide for the teams gives them a good foundation for them to launch off next year. Hopefully next year will be even more successful.
At least in the marketplace, so to speak, the 2018 car seems to be behaving very well in terms of its reception. We've been testing it with the Schmidt-Peterson team and Oriole Servia behind the wheel. What kind of feedback are you getting relative to where the 2018 car is in development right now?
Well, it's interesting because Oriole, after the first test at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, called me right after the test and actually was pretty much glowing about how that test went. That he was pretty much flat right out of the pits. You know, obviously there are a lot of work that went into making that car ready to go like that. But you know, the signs so far, with the tests we've done in Mid-Ohio, the tests we've done at IMS, all of the work that has been done by IndyCar in conjunction with the teams. Things have been very, very encouraging. It looks like that some of the things that we want to happen, we want to put more of the downforce on the underside of the car so we can race closer together. So one of the beauties of IndyCar the way it is right now is that there's a lot closer racing than there are in pretty much any other series around. And next year we can only expect that to get even closer. So we haven't really seen any real major issues with the Universal Aero Kit for next year so far. I mean, obviously knock on wood. And we still haven't really got into our manufacturer testing or our team testing, so that's the next step. But so far, all the signs have been very, very encouraging for how stable the kit is as a platform, how raceable it is, and hopefully will lead to very exciting races next year.
So let's move into a different category. Let's talk a little bit about the NSX GT3 sports car program, which is also on display here this weekend with the Pirelli World Challenge under the auspices of our partners at Real Time Racing. First year program, out of the gate pretty strong. I would expect that you would be fairly pleased with what we've seen on the racetrack in both the IMSA WeatherTech Championship and the Pirelli World Challenge with the NSX GT3 so far.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, there's a whole long story with the NSX GT3, including when we received the base car for that and really started our development of that last summer to get ready for this season. That you know, the people at HPD, along with the support that we had with our partners in Italy and Yaz, along with our family in Japan, really got that car off to a really good start. So the first, I mean, with the fact that we led Daytona right out of the box was pretty fantastic. Obviously, there were still some teething pains with a brand new car, brand new platform, but honestly, we won 2 races in IMSA, 1 race in the Pirelli World Challenge so far. You know, as a, you know, I don't think any other first-year manufacturer can boast that many wins in a new series. So, you know, we're very, very pleased with the performance of the NSX GT3. It was you know, really great working with Michael Shank Racing in IMSA, as well as Real Time Racing in the Pirelli World Challenge. Those 2 groups necessarily needed to work very, very closely together with part shortages and development things that we had to do, which it was very good for us. I think it was very good for them. But the overall success of that program has been fantastic. We announced in Mid-Ohio that we are turning that program into a customer program. So we have had, you know, to date, I think we've had 3 sales so far globally of that car worldwide. We are having a production run of those vehicles right now that we will be selling to customers, hopefully next year. I'm not sure how many will be, where they'll be, but you know, it's a big step in HPD's development that we homologated a global specification, so that car is able to run in any global or any international, any GT3 series around the world right now. So we're actively marketing that vehicle and looking for customers to race that vehicle successfully next year.
And this is really the first of these media briefings we've done since the announcement we made in late August regarding a new sports car program for next year in the WeatherTech Championship, the Daytona, the DPI program. in partnership with Penske Racing. Seemed like that made rather a large splash when the news was announced at the Monterey Auto Weeks. Talk about the development of that car a little bit and your ambitions for that program in 2018.
Well, first of all, talking a little bit about the series that we're entering, the IMSA DPI series. That series is already very challenging and a very competitive series. You know, the champion this year was crowned 2 races ago or something. So, and we recognize that we are entering into a series that has very strong competition. We know that some of the other manufacturers are looking at coming into that one. Some of them have changed partners to work on that one, so we know it's going to be extremely challenging. With that being said, our Acura DPI program is based off the very successful Orca 07 chassis with Acura specific bodywork and an Acura specific engine for that car. We have done a shakedown test of that vehicle at Paul Ricard. We did our first test a couple weeks ago with that car at Road Atlanta, and by all accounts that we were able to get through the program that we wanted to do during that test. So far, you know, knock on wood, things are going according to our plan right now, but we have no illusions that coming into this DPI series is going to be easy. That we know we have a lot of challenges ahead. We have a lot of work that we are working with very closely with Team Penske to get that car raceable and ready to go in January's 24 Hours of Daytona. But like I said, we're very excited about that new program. It's always nice to have a new car. It's really energized the folks at HPD to work on that, and we're really looking forward to what the future brings with that particular class and that particular formula.
And with that, we will open it for questions from the floor. Florio, we will begin with you.
I'm going to steal Wolfgang's thunder and ask 2 questions, if I may.
Only 2?
First, a quick one. Are you hoping to run a Petit Le Mans, and would you do so with the ARX 05 or with the standard or replica car?
So the question is, are we planning on running at Petit Le Mans this year with Team Penske, with the DPI? So as far as HPD is concerned, and as far as our Acura ARX 05 car, we are not running Petit Le Mans this year. Our first race for that car, our debut for that car, will be at Daytona in 2018.
And secondly, on the IndyCar side, Michael Andretti reportedly talked to Chevrolet about switching manufacturers. What did you have to do to keep him? Did you have to pitch him or sell him? How do you say, hey, we're a better option for you?
Well, it wasn't really a sales pitch that we had. We said, you know, that we have been successful with Andretti Autosports since they came over to Honda Power back in 2014. 2014, yeah. And we desired to continue with them. It was more about a mutual understanding that we thought we were happy together. We thought that we would be more successful together than we would be separate on that. So, you know, ultimately it came down to Michael having to make a decision, you know, A or B. And thankfully for us, you know, we think that they stayed with Honda Power, and we're very happy about that. And we're really excited to look at the future with them, and you know, especially with all the history that we have of our Indy 500 victories and other race wins.
Patrick.
To follow up on that a little bit, are you comfortable where the series is with their rules to prevent the manufacturers from getting into kind of a bidding war for teams and to keep things relatively level? A decade or more ago, the teams started spending so much money, the manufacturers spent so much money they kind of spent their way out of the sport. Are you comfortable with where the rules are today with IndyCar to keep that level and to keep you from having to throw money at teams just to keep it around?
But that's an interesting question because you know, there's only so much we can do, you know, as a manufacturer, and when we reach that limit, we reach that limit. So there's no real impact that I can think of the IndyCar rules per se that affect that. Really, our decisions about what teams we work with are the ones that you know, share our values, that share our desire to try and bring all the Honda cars to the front of the field and to work together as a group to accomplish that. But you know, manufacturers will spend what they're allowed to spend. I think no matter what. So I don't think that necessarily any IndyCar rules per se is keeping that. I think it's our own caps that we have on our own limitations on what we want to do. Really, it's about us developing our own program, deciding what teams work in that envelope, and making sure it fits into that. There's no secret sauce to that, I guess.
So you come more where budgets are then for the return?
Well, I mean, I think no matter what, the racing industry or the racing environment is different than it was 20 years ago, and budgets are necessarily smaller now because the ability for the teams to attract sponsorship is smaller right now. So I think if you're talking about the rules from the team sides about how much it costs to run a car versus how much they can get for sponsorship, I think that's at a pretty good balance right now, and I am comfortable with that.
Wolfgang, this is your last opportunity to ask questions this year. I hope we don't have like 15 of them.
Is it okay, 3?
Let's see. Give me your first one.
Okay, I have 2 technical questions. You said earlier, if I couldn't understand it correctly, in 2018 you have only small areas where you can do improvement for the engine by the rules.
Yes.
Can you give some more details what kind of areas this will be?
I could if I knew it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But I don't know specifically what those. I mean, it's in the IndyCar rules, so it's available. It shows what are the open homologation items for each year.
Okay.
On that, in 2018 is a small. It's pistons and yeah. I don't know. I don't know exactly what they are. I'd have to look at that myself. And if Mark Crawford was here, he could rattle off exactly what we have or David Salters. They can tell you exactly, but I just don't know that off the top of my head what it is that we're allowed to work on.
The second question, as far as I know, any kind of engine, regardless racing or road car engine, the designers are trying to reduce friction, which costs power. Is there any research work from HPD to reduce friction, maybe in cooperation with the lubricant company?
So the question is there any work being done to reduce friction in the engines? Yeah. So there are some rules. So we are not unlimited with our lubrications of what we can do with the engine. So specifically the oil. Right? The oil that we are using has to be available to everybody. It can't be a specific, unique that only Honda teams can get type oil. So obviously we do look at reducing friction, but the areas of being able to, coatings and that type of stuff are open. So there is some research being done on that. But quite frankly, this engine has been around. This is the 6th year, I believe, of this engine. Next year will be the 7th year of this engine. So, we're approaching the theoretical development limit of what we can actually extract out of this engine, without making major changes to it. So, the simple answer is we're always looking to reduce friction, but right now the avenues available to us to reduce friction are much limited.
The last one is your IMSA program next year with Penske. I understand you choose as the chassis supplier Orica from France, Duke de Chonat. From the logistic point of view, would it not be easier to choose Dallara, which already has a base in America, than to choose somebody in Europe?
We chose our DPI supplier based on a very long list of what gives us our best chance to win races based on our personal criteria. And from that, we chose the Orica to do that one. We didn't really consider the importation and those types of things. I mean, obviously, working from France, makes things a little bit more difficult from a logistics standpoint. But, we planned for that. Obviously, the body work is done by us. So we don't see that as a limitation, quite frankly.
Bruce.
Racer the other day did a pretty thorough and comprehensive price guideline would be relatively for all the teams. Are you, as a manufacturer, comfortable with those prices for all of your teams, or do you think there might be a little bit of an initial financial hardship for some of the smaller teams?
Well, anytime you have a change, that requires the teams to do something different than they're doing right now, it's going to be a hardship. Now, the level of that hardship is debatable right now, but I think that one of the driving forces of doing this universal aero kit was to reduce costs. Is laid out by the teams. I think will be paid back over the course of the season. So I don't think it'll be that difficult for the teams.
And also, do you have any input as manufacturer who Penske's other two drivers to be?
This is for the DPI program you're talking about. Yeah, well, yes, of course. So we're in discussions about that right now. We're not prepared to announce who those are as yet, mainly because we don't know. We don't have 100% confirmation on those. But we are hoping to nail down our full season drivers fairly soon, and then we'll talk about the endurance drivers after that. But yeah, it's active discussions between us and the Penske folks.
Annie.
You said that the engine is kind of at the apex of its development, and there's not much more that you can do under the rules that you have now. What would you like to see opened up?
Well, quite frankly, this engine, the engine formula that was, I got to give a little bit of background, but the engine formula that we made, and I say we because Honda was the sole supplier when we made this engine spec, and obviously Chevy and Lotus came in 2012 with this engine spec, but our expectations was this formula was only going to last 4 years, 5 years maximum. So, the power gains that we have are really stressing the overall structure of this engine that we have right now, that we need to really kind of rethink and redesign the entire engine. So we're looking forward to the next iteration or next generation of this engine to do a complete redesign.
When do you think that'll happen?
Well, there's actually meetings. It's going to be within the next couple of years. I mean, this can't go on forever.
It's got to be.
Right. So there will be an announcement at some point. It's not my announcement to make on that, but we are in discussions of what that formula for the next engine is going to be, and what that's going to take, and we'll have announcements for those when the time is right for those. But we're working with this engine for at least obviously this year and next year.
Yeah.
At the very minimum.
Josh.
Yes. How important was it how important is it to not only keep the same teams but keep the same drivers in your lineup on the IndyCar side?
So the question is, how important is it to keep the same teams and the same drivers in our lineup? So the answer is, we look at this as a family. When we look at our teams and we look at our drivers, we look at it as part of the Honda family. Now, there's various things that can help performance of the car, right? Obviously the chassis is one, the engine is another one, the team is one thing, and then the drivers. So we are always looking for, it's a competitive sport, so we think it's very good to have stable teams. We know what their engineering capability is. We know how to work with them. Drivers, obviously we're always looking to get the best driver lineup we have. I mean, quite frankly, we have 13 seats to fill, and we realize there's going to be some attrition here and there, and we do work with our teams to make sure that we have appropriate drivers that fill those seats, but ultimately the driver lineup is the team's decision. All we can do is help encourage that, and in the perfect world, we'd like all of our drivers, our 13 drivers like that to finish position 1 through position 13 of the championship, and they're fighting against themselves, and then I'd say absolutely I'd want to keep them. But until that happens, we realize it's a transient sport, that there will be some changes, but all we can do is really work with our teams to try to make sure the lineup is as strong as humanly possible to drive our Honda cars.
Tony.
Does Honda have the capacity to expand beyond the 13 full-time cars and or the seat or add a team if there's some fall off of the existing car account?
So the question is basically concerning HPD's capacity to supply more teams if possible. It's not a simple answer, quite frankly. That our capacity, the way that we're staffed, is really for 11 cars. That's our capacity at HPD. Now, obviously, we can extend that given the circumstances that we have. We would prefer not to. Quite frankly, this year 13 cars really stretched our capability. We wouldn't be looking to add to that number short term. obviously it's a physical limitation of our engine build shop, and just to try to get enough engines through that shop. I mean, as it is right now, we start building Indy engines, I think, in February. So, that it becomes a little bit of a problematic in terms of building enough supply to do that stuff. So, to answer your question about whether we have the capacity or the willingness, we always want this series to grow, so we want more teams, but that's quite frankly one of the reasons we encourage looking for other manufacturers, is to kind of help with that car count and stuff, and 13 is really kind of our practical limit that we have right now, so we're not really looking to expand above that number.
Last question from Patrick.
Looking at the engine manufacturer points here, you guys had a shot at it, theoretically you still do, but you had a shot at it up until you had the reliability problems. How has that worked itself out, and what are you anticipating for 2018?
We anticipate not failing engines in 2018. I mean, it's well documented, the issues that we have starting in Long Beach. I think we addressed it in one of these meetings here that it was a part quality problem. We fixed that part quality problem. The spec of the engine that exists right now is the same as it was back then. So our expectations is it's unfortunate this year because I'm not sure if you guys understand the rules of the engine manufacturer championship, is that you can only earn engine manufacturer points with your first 4 engines. So the fact that we changed out all of our team's engines early in Long Beach, or after Long Beach, and then with our issues that we had at the Indy 500 really made that problematic. So I think we're down to maybe only 3 cars that are capable of earning, don't quote me on that number, but a very small number. And actually the other side has the same problem, so there's really probably only 6 or 7 cars that are actually capable of earning manufacturer points at this race, so it makes things a little bit complicated on that. But our expectation and our work is really to, as we increase the power of this engine, is to really make sure that we address, and then this goes a little bit to Tony's question, when we had 13 engines, part of it is we had to hurry through some of our processes to get these engines out the door. That's kind of a direct result of that as well. So we're working on trying to tighten up our business at HPD, and next year we expect to be able to do the whole season on 4 engines. Now obviously crash damage and those types of things are outside of our control on that, but and like I said, from a reliability standpoint, we expect to do it next year with 4 engines all the way through the season.
And with that, we will wrap up for today and for the season. Thank you all for joining us. I think I can speak for Art, and I know I can speak for Dan and myself when I say we really appreciate all of your interest and coverage over the course of 2017. So thank you very, very much.
And I second that, for sure. Thank you all for what you guys do to help us do what we do, so thank you.
Let us feed you lunch in gratitude. Stay and enjoy it.
Thanks,
Have a good
everybody.
race weekend.
Thank you so much.